recording to cloud server, and we're rocking. Hi, Shayna.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome my first digital guest today, Shayna Rattler. Shayna, thanks so much for joining us on the, YouTube podcast interview series that we're just launching. I'm just stoked to be able to chat with you, to be able to have you share with our peeps. And I thought that your subject would be just really relevant to what's going on in the world right now. So maybe you can give an introduction to who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy to be your guinea pig. But as you said, I'm Shayna Rattler, and I help high-performing leaders who have found themselves burned out. Usually it's from like their business or their career, and I help them to confidently drive the next chapter of their life. So I've been a coach and a consultant since 2007. And during that time, I have done general business coaching. I've taught people how to land corporate sponsors and contracts. I've done leadership development for some of the top Fortune 500 companies here in the United States. I've spoken in Canada, which is where you are, and all over the country. And so I'm teaching people, like, how do you optimize your life? How do you optimize your leadership and your business? And I've been doing that since 2007. And since 2018, I've been kind of combining the faith and business conversation, expertly kind of trying to blend the two together to show people what I believe was a key turning point in my own life of getting my own business and life, back on track when I found myself in kind of a stuck place.
Absolutely. Well, in this time of life, whether you might be near the end of your career, looking to see, what is next after that, if you're retiring, because I know my parents-in-law are in that phase. You might be looking at a new career because you've been sort of forced to do that based on the economy and what's happening right now. Or you might be in business and you might be stuck because it's like a new economy. And you just got to sort of roll with it. And even myself in my business, I'm like, hey, this is sort of startup mode, because you got to meet the needs of an evolving sector. So, what are some of the things that you share with people when they're feeling stuck or feeling lost or feeling like they're just not clear on where to go next?
Well, I think this is so timely, like you said, at the time that we're recording this, it's April 1st, and this is no April Fool's joke that the coronavirus has invaded our lives. So I think it leaves a lot of people asking what next. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I said, stress already can put a divide in the crack, right? And so when you're thinking about people who have already found themselves in a place where they're feeling stuck, or they're feeling burned out, or, just losing their enthusiasm, or I say, what happens when that thing that you once loved is now feeling like a chore in order to pursue it? So when you find yourself in that situation, I think we have to ask ourselves, why are these things happening? And for me, I think it's because we've been pursuing the wrong place, and God is trying to get our attention. I know in my own life, Anthony, in 2018, I found myself in a position where, how they like everything works until it doesn't. And so for me, like, my relationships were drying up, my opportunities were drying up, things that people hired me for that I knew that I could do well in my sleep, I could no longer do it all. Like, they say everything I touch turns to gold. Well, let me tell you, everything I touched was turning to dirt. And I believe that had things continued to go well, that I would have ignored that God was trying to get my attention to show me something. So my advice to the listeners is, if you find yourself in a place where there's been some form of disruption, or that things are just off and you don't really know why, I encourage you to spend some time seeking what is it that you might be pursuing that is not on the path that is really designed for you, whether that's a physical place like your job, like maybe you're in a job and you need to be in a different job, or maybe you're in a job and you need to pursue entrepreneurship, or maybe it's your relationships, your mindset, whatever that thing is that we might be putting energy into, what might be trying to get your attention. And, I say God, because that's my own personal belief, but, universe, source, whatever it is that you believe in, something is trying to get your attention. And I know for me, I'm kind of hard-headed like that. And I would have ignored the whispers. So it's like, I think sometimes things whisper or tap us on the shoulder, and then other times they scream and shake us. God knew that I'm a scream and shake kind of girl. So if everything had not fallen to pots, I would have never paid attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think in this time it's special. Well, there's a catalyst. So I don't know if God or a higher power or something that is, bigger than you is trying to shake all of us up. I think that there's a strong case, depending on where you sit on that. But I think there's a strong case for that. And then on a personal side, like let's say you are entertaining the whispers. Okay, so there's whispers. You might not know what's going on, and I know that, like, I've been there. I find where my life doesn't work, I'm missing like gratitude for what I have,
Yeah.
and I'm just like I'm not in what I'm in. I'm in something else expecting it to happen. I might even put a song in the description where it's like, this is it. There's no today, there's no tomorrow. This is the game. Like,
Yeah.
you're in the game right now. And so do you look at it from more of like an approach of perspective, or is it like pursuing what's important to you? Like, what do you, if they're say, hey, I want to take two things from this interview and I want to put them in my life today, what are those two or three things that people do to get unstuck or to follow the whispers that they're hearing?
Absolutely. To answer your first question, I do think a lot of it is about perspective. And I think sometimes, the reason why those whispers and those nudges are there, because I think many of us know that there's more for us. There's either more for us or there's more in us. I think, because I work with a lot of high performing leaders who, if I were to say their name, you'd be like, what? They felt stuck? They felt uncertain? And I think that even once we get to the top, if you will, that sometimes we really do recognize that there's either something more for us or something more in us, whether it's because things have become stagnant or because we're just, used to always looking for what's next because we're always wanting to move the bar higher and higher. So I think, one, it is about your perspective of what is it that you need to do next, because there's always going to be a next, or there always should be a next. I will submit that. So I think it's about two things. One, it's about what do you need to do next, but I also think it's about who do we need to be next. I think there's a reason why we're called human beings and not human doings, because I think that sometimes we lose sight of who it is that we need to become, whether it's to live out another level of destiny or to have favor for our next assignment or whatever it is that we want to do. I know for myself, when I was like, okay, Lord, like, you're trying to get my attention, you've allowed everything to fall apart, and I trust that things are falling apart for a reason. Maybe it's to develop me or whatever the case may be, but what do you want me to do? And what I've discovered was that he was like, I want you to first focus on who it is that I'm asking you to become, because whatever is next for us, whether it's the next job, the next journey, whatever the next phase of life is, it's never going to exceed the capacity of who we are as the individual, especially when we're in leadership.
It's like a reverse Peter principle. And I actually don't know if it's the Peter principle, but like that you'll rise to your level of incompetence, I believe it is.
Right,
So on the flip
right.
side, it's you can only get problems in which that you are equipped to deal with. So less around doing and more around like equipping yourself to take on bigger challenges. Like for me right
Absolutely.
now, like in my relationship, just had my 2-year anniversary yesterday, and
Yay.
so thank you. There's so much more for me to be in my relationship and in the people I talk to, and I could say that like, hey, I'm great and I could get better, but I'm also like not great and I could get a lot better. And so really looking to say, hey, what are those challenges that are coming to expect me and to bring me up to a higher level? And then one of the things that I tell myself, and I don't know if you've ever had experience with this, is like, too much is given, much is expected. And so when I'm dealing with the stuff, that's like, this is because I have so much. And everybody's at a different stage of life. There's some people who are like, hey, I need my kids to go to school to get lunch today.
Yeah.
And to be really honest, I have no experience with that. But
Right.
I think that there's something that everybody can take out of crisis or challenge so that they can like add to themselves and make it a positive in the time of crisis and time of challenge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to be secure in who we are and what we bring to the table because if we don't fix that, and not to say fix it because something is broken, but if we don't examine that and we don't explore opportunities for growth in that manner, I don't think anything that comes after that really matters. I think it's more of a moot point if we don't, first focus on who we are and who we're becoming.
So as a practice for that, like I know that there's like everybody says, hey, like meditation is the thing, or introspective, or you know, doing whatever. I talk to different groups of people. I do meditation, you know, I say prayer, say reading books and things like that. Like how do you get connected to that person that you want to be? How do you get connected on that future?
Yeah.
What's the way? Tell me the way. Give me the answer. I need the
Give me
answer.
the answer. You know, so obviously there's a ton of assessments and things that you can take, but I always say, ask the people that are closest to you that you know will be honest with you. So one of the things that my mentor taught me years ago, she said, whether it's your team or someone that you're in a personal relationship with, you can ask them like, how would you rate our relationship on a scale of 1 to 10? And then what could I do to make it better? And so I think most people are willing to answer that. And I think in their answers, you can ask yourself, who would I need to become in order to be able to do those things? Am I fully equipped at the level that I am now, the capacity that I have now to improve in the areas that they're asking me to improve in? Or are there areas of my life that I need to focus on and develop in order to become a better version of myself so that those things automatically, you know, kind of take care of themselves? I think that's the best way. Ask those people, because I've got some people in my life that I think are cheerleaders and will, you know, oh yes, whatever you say, I think that's great. And then I've got other people that will call me out on my stuff and be like, no, you stink today. You know, not literally, but your attitude stinks today. Or yeah, no, I don't. So ask those people that are around you. Hopefully they'll tell you.
So I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but like my thought to this, and I've done these questions, and my first thought is like, isn't there an easier way? Like this sounds pretty hard, and do I want to do this? And so can you answer, not necessarily is there an easier way, but because it's hard, or because it could be hard, sometimes it sucks to hear the truth, or even just to be curious about what your life is like in the eyes of somebody else, because that's where I learned how bad I was, is by actually talking to other people.
Yeah.
But what is the benefit that makes the pain or the uncomfortableness worthwhile? You know, isn't there enough shitty stuff going on in my language right now that I don't need more of it? But like, what's on the other side of really getting to have those conversations with people?
I think you have to ask yourself two things. One, how bad do you want to change? And what is it going to cost you if you don't? Because there's a cost for not doing anything different. And again, we're not coming at this from the premise of, you know, oh my God, everything is at the bottom level. You know, some of us may be at a pretty decent level and want to go higher, but there's always a cost to pay for doing nothing, whether it's your joy, your legacy, your money, your time. You know, there's so many different things. So I think you have to ask yourself, how bad do you want it? And what are things going to look like if you do nothing, right? So for me, if you know that it's something that you really want, who cares how freaking hard it's going to be? Like, get over it. Put on your big girl panties and your big boy pants and, you know, let's suit up and get this thing done. Like I would like to think that if it's something that we want bad enough, that the first question is not going to be, what if it's hard? Like, adopt the mindset of, so what if it's hard? Like I read this thing, this quote one time, and it said something to the effect of, it said, oh crap. I don't remember what
it's an interesting quote.
I don't remember what it said, but I know what it said, right? So basically it was saying, you know, keep going even when you don't want to. And it was talking about, you know, tapping into your why. You know, like if we go to a leadership conference or we go to a business conference, they always want to know, like, what's your why? And your why is not usually because I want to make $1 million. Your why is usually, and then at that time, the speaker puts up a picture of their wife and their 3 beautiful children. Like, this is my why. And, you know, I want to make sure that they have a great life. So, you know, I think it really comes down to, if you have a big enough why, can you just keep going regardless of if it's hard or if you're fearful or, you know, whatever that if is that you want to put in the blank, can you do it anyway? Can you take a baby step every day towards just doing it anyway and see what the worst is going to happen?
Yeah, well, that's what I find for me. So if we think of like the 3 weeks of this, like self-isolation quarantine, and if you're, depending on where you are in the world, it might have been shorter or longer. But that was the thing that actually gave me purpose in the day when I like really didn't want to wake up and wasn't like feeling it. I was just like, okay, what is my why? What am I here to do? What do I need to be able to do to bring to people? I think you got like demonstrate leadership is something I really believe in. Is that like in these times, especially, but like the world needs leaders, the world needs people to follow and to be able to show them that way and to support them with what they want to accomplish. And I think you have to be the embodiment of that in order to have that both from your people, because I know for you, you want to have people win in business and in life. And I don't know if there's a difference. You know, if you're a spouse, you've got to lead your partner, your kids. If you're a kid, you could even lead your parents or your friends, you know, and to be actually somebody that is worth following. And I think that's the opportunity of that introspection and taking the time to say, hey, where am I lacking? And against where I want to, who I want to be, not just necessarily like what I have or what I'm doing. So yeah, just some really, really interesting perspectives. What else would you, you know, in the concept of being unstuck or winning in life, what are some of the other things that people could consider or reflect on in these times when you're sitting and some people might be bored? What are some other things for them to think about?
Sitting and being bored. I think when we think about, the very first thing is we have to identify that we need to shift. And it's my position that if any of these things that we have talked about you're experiencing in your life, it's probably because there's something that needs to shift. So then you have to ask yourself, what are some of the things that could get in the way of shifting? And some of the things that I have seen that kind of fall in the top 2 to 3 categories is, number one, being attached to the way that we've always done things or to what we had in mind. I posted on social media not that long ago that I think the hardest thing to let go of is what we had in mind. So, you know, especially if we're a high performing leader and we've done well for ourselves, you know, it's so easy when we've tried other things to maybe not try anything other than what we've already always tried and try to just figure it out on our own, because after all, we always have. Or if it's to what we had in mind. Like, I think a lot of times we're so attached to the vehicle that's going to get us where we're going, or the person that we're going to get there with, that's where we get stuck. So I always tell my clients, I want you to be very, very committed to the outcome, but I want you to be open to the zigzag of the vehicle that gets you to that outcome, or even the people that get there with you on that outcome. And let me tell you, when I learned that, baby, my life was so much better just being able to let go of what it is that I had in mind. So I think that's the top thing, or not that they're not in any order of importance, but I think that's one of the primary things that can get in the way of shifting. And then I think the other thing is that we've been shoulded on, like not shitted on, but shoulded on, like you should do this. You know, I know for me, I graduated from therapy school in 2004. And, you know, I had a healthcare staffing agency. Within a very short period of time, our profit was about $30,000 a month, you know, after expenses. I was 28 years old and doing pretty darn well. And so when I told my family that I wanted to stop doing that and start doing something else, you know, with the best intentions, they were like, but you went to school for this, so you should do that. You know, you should wait to establish your career until you've got a family, or whatever we've allowed people to should on us, or we've shoulded on ourselves. So I think that we have to, you know, acknowledge some of those things that can get in the way, because it's one thing to identify that you need to shift, and it's another thing to know how to shift. And then it's another thing entirely to be able to get around those obstacles. So I would say, if I could leave the listeners with anything, that it would be, one, to identify those things that could get in the way, to figure out how you get around those. And two, enlist the help of somebody who's already shifted in that capacity. So, you know, in corporate and in businesses, they call them sponsors. So if there's a position or a type of position that you strive for, find someone that's been in that position that can mentor you. You know, hire a coach and spend whatever it takes to, you know, to work with them, but find someone that's 10 steps ahead of you, and just let their life be your lessons instead of you scraping your knees and banging your forehead.
I really like that. I really like not letting, because that's that external locus of control where people are like, you're getting them telling you what to do, the stuff that's going to get in the way. And then, you know, one of the things that'll get in the way is making mistakes that somebody else has made before you. And if you can be smart about it, you don't need to suffer. I think a lot of us like to suffer because it feels like we're doing something good.
I know,
like,
right?
well,
Like, The biggest lie that I was ever told was that if it's not hard, that you're not on the right path. And I was like, that, let me just set y'all free. That is the biggest lie that has ever been told, is that it shouldn't, that it has to be hard. That's just crazy. It doesn't have to be hard. I think if you do a few things right, it's not hard. And if you don't know what those few things are, there's somebody out there that can show you the way, whether it's asking the right people the right questions or getting in the right program, reading the right book, like whatever it is, like just, this whole notion of, oh, you're not on the right path if it's not hard. I just think that's
I say, if you're listening right now and you've heard somebody say, well, it has to be hard, just put your hand up, just honesty check for yourselves what that is. And then, looking, saying, what can you transform, especially in these times when, if you're sequestered at home or whatever, and saying, be smart with your work. And it's not just about being busy, it's about being smart. And now more than ever, where nobody's looking over your shoulder to see what you're doing, it's about, hey, let's produce the results. And I think that's really, what I'm taking from our conversation, Shayna. It's really being results oriented in terms of what you want your future to be. So what is that vision? What is that life? What is that business? Who's been there? How can you follow them and really have people breathe into your life to support you in moving that forward and getting that inertia? Because if you're at that point, there's inertia. And to do that requires energy. So it's about pulling energy from other people into
Absolutely.
being able to help you move that and have them see for themselves that that's possible for you. But if you don't know, you're stuck. That's the worst. When everybody else knows something except for you, and it might be worthwhile talking to other people to get their perspective on it. So, and that's why
Absolutely. I know for myself, I was always, well, I say I was a type A person, like that went away. I still am very much so a type A, out of the box, ready to go, even if I don't have all the steps kind of person. It's just kind of how I'm wired. But I was always the type of person, Anthony, that at the beginning of the year or at any time, I could figure out what goal I wanted to reach. I could identify what I had to do to make it happen, and then I made it happen. Well, then I found myself at a place where, meeting my goals, I just was not as effective at doing that anymore. And I was like, what in the world is going on? Like, I can still do this for my clients, but why is it that it doesn't matter what I set out to do? It doesn't matter what plans I create, even if it's something I've done before, just nothing was working. And I think sometimes we all can find ourselves in one situation or another in some aspect of our life, personally or professionally, that you're just like, yeah, that was great until it no longer was.
Oh, it's what got you there won't get you there, or what got you here won't get you there.
Won't get you there. Yeah. And I say, and God can't bless you there with he can't bless you here with what he has for you there. So we have to be willing to go reach for there. And I think that most time things are put just far enough out of our reach that we have to move forward and we have to do something different. So we can't expect for us to have here what it is that he has for us there if we're not going to move to meet him there. Like, he's going to play his part, but he's expecting us to have some discipline and some determination and some desire as well to want to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think moving forward, next steps, everybody is take some time, the retreat, to move forward, to look and say, hey, what is, whether you believe in God or you use faith, or if you're guided by stuffed animals that are on your dresser, whatever works for you, is like, what is that future, whatever's that future for you, and then, create that path to get there. But it's in the being and the doing, and looking to now more than ever have other people create that connectedness and all move forward to be able to make that successful. So Shayna, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people get a hold of you? How can they learn more about what you speak about, what you talk about, what you write about? Where do they go?
Sure. So obviously we've talked a lot about like, how do you shift or whatever. And I actually have a full training, and it's free, and it'll be free forever. And you can get that at thepoweroftheshift.com. And so it's the 6 shifts to overcome burnout and upgrade your personal and business growth. And it's about a 40-minute training where I do a deep dive into, what we've talked about today, and even some more things as well. So if your listeners want to go to thepoweroftheshift.com and watch that free training, they're welcome to do that. And then I've made it really easy. I'm Shayna Speaks everywhere. So I'm Shayna Speaks on Instagram. I'm Shayna Speaks on Facebook. My website is shaynaspeaks.com. You just have to spell my name right, and it has a Y, SHAYNA.
ShaynaSpeaks.com. Find her everywhere. Take her training, and whether you know it or not, you might be stuck. And Shayna, I just super appreciate you sharing your perspective, your insights, your experience, and supporting. I know why you wanted to come here talk today was really for like 4 people, and that's why we're both here. It's 4 people. So I hope y'all got
Yeah.
something out of today, and I hope you appreciated it. And Shayna, again, for joining us today. It's been a really fun conversation.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.